Namaste and welcome. The talk for today is titled The Flavors of Loving Service. And no, it's not a cooking class. But before I begin, I will offer my obeisances, my respect to my spiritual master, Jagat Guru Siddha Swarupananda. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsariti Namane Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Adwaita Gadha Shri Vasudeva Gopakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Rupa Goswami has written extensively in his Nectar of Devotion, which is where we're going to be taking this class from. And he's written about the 5 rasas, flavors of relationships with the Supreme Lord. First is Santa Rasa, which means the living entity has an appreciation of the greatness of the Lord, but there is no active service yet to the Lord. And as soon as the desire to offer service to the Lord arises, this enters now into Dasya Rasa, which is service in reverential devotion to the Lord. So there's that reverence that was there in Santa Rasa, but with the addition of some service to the Lord. Next is Sakya Rasa, which is service in the spirit of friendship. Then Vatsalya Rasa, which is service as the Lord's parent or teacher, such as Sandapani Muni. Then Madhura Rasa, which is service in conjugal love. In the purport of the Chaitanya Charitamrita 3.16, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada writes, after his appearance, Lord Krishna thought that he had not distributed the transcendental personal dealings with his devotees in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsala, and Madhura. To teach the principles of such loving dealings, the Lord decided to appear as Lord Chaitanya. Sometimes when people are on the path of bhakti yoga and they read about these 5 flavors of service to Krishna, they emotionally and mentally speculate, how do I serve the Lord eternally? But bhakti yoga is not a technique or method for speculation. Mental speculation. I think I might be a cowherd boy. Or emotional speculation. I feel I must be a gopi girl. Bhakti yoga is the actual expression of the eternal serving mode of the spirit soul. It is a mature outcome of full spiritual realization. So this is very different to speculation, isn't it? The Chaitanya Charitamrita was published in 1974, and devotees all around the world started reading it and appreciating it. And in 1975, in a particular temple in the United States, the devotees there, they got together and they formed a little club because they all considered that they wanted to have the relationship of Madhura Leela, conjugal love, that was being exposed and discussed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So they were speculating that this is what I want to do, or this is who I am, this is my eternal mood of service. So they formed this club and they decided they wouldn't read or hear about any of the other rasas, just Madhura Rasa. So when, and actually this idea started spreading to other devotees in other places. So when Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada heard about this, he immediately stepped in and he told them, basically he reduced it down to a phrase that his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta, would often quote. It's actually an old English proverb, but Bhakti Siddhanta would quote it from the viewpoint of Vaishnavism. And the quote is, "First deserve, then desire." So Bhaktivedanta then went on to explain to them, first deserve. And what this means is that your first step in spiritual life is you practice sadhana bhakti with some faith and with determination and sincerity. And then gradually, according to the grace of the Supreme Lord, He will reveal to you what your mood of service is. There's no speculation involved on your part. So then the second step, then desire. So once a person, it becomes aware, they become aware of what their mood, their eternal mood of service is. This then creates and encourages and grows their desire to serve the Lord internally in that mood. It's not an external thing. You know, if the devotee is given the insight by the Supreme Lord that his eternal service is as a cowherd boy, it's not that he starts running around dressed up as a cowherd boy. So this is really the pathway that is taught by our spiritual masters, by Krishna himself, by Lord Chaitanya himself. It is not speculation. And Bhaktivedanta went on further to explain to the disciples, you should read about all the different rasas. Don't just pick out one of them, speculate that's what yours is, and only read about that. Read about all the rasas. This is very wonderful information for us and advice. It's more than advice, it's how we progress on the pathway of Bhakti Yoga. Rupa Goswami writes in the Nectar of Devotion. So this is Rupa Goswami's words himself, which are no different to the words of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, which are no different to the words from our spiritual master, Jagat Guru. Rupa Goswami writes, no one should claim his eternal relationship with Krishna until he is liberated. In the conditioned state of life, the devotees have to execute the recommended prescribed duties. In the premature stage, it is found that a conditioned person will artificially try to establish some relationship with Krishna. So those words, artificially try to establish some relationship. We depend upon the grace of Krishna, not upon our mental or emotional faculties. So now that we've sort of laid down a little bit of that understanding, let's now read from various parts in the Nectar of Devotion some of these different flavors and stories connected to these flavors, so that we're not speculating about them or anything. We're just opening our heart and listening to what Rupa Goswami wrote about these wonderful pastimes of Krishna in these different flavors. So let's begin now. I'll start reading. So the first one, I'm not going to read actually about Santa Rasa, because in that mood, a person is just acknowledging, oh, God is great. But as I said, there's no desire to serve. So we're going to start with the first one, Dasya Rasa. And as an example, we find the description of Krishna's son, Pradyumna, who served Krishna with reverential devotion. Pradyumna was very attached to his father and missed Krishna very much when he was away from Dwarka. Pradyumna would always be overjoyed with happiness when Krishna returned, and he was very respectful and reverential towards his father. Krishna asked Pradyumna not to feel so bashful before him. He said to Pradyumna, "My dear boy, just give up your inferiority complex and do not hang your head down. Just talk with me in a clear voice and do not shed tears. You can look straight at me and you can place your hands on my body without hesitation. There is no need of exhibiting so much reverence before your father." So Krishna was encouraging this growth in his relationship, Pradyumna's relationship with his father, to sort of grow more out of that reverence. So let's now look at the next rasa. In Sakhya Rasa, the devotee sees Krishna as his dearest friend. These friends of Krishna are called Vayasyas, and they become greatly distressed when they cannot see Krishna even for a moment. There is the following prayer by a devotee for the Vayasyas of Vrindavan. This was his prayer. All glories to Krishna's Vayasyas, who are just like Krishna in their age, qualities, pastimes, dress and beauty. They are accustomed to playing on their flutes made of palm leaves. I've never read that description except there in the Nectar of Devotion. Flutes made of palm leaves. And they have buffalo horn bugles ornamented like Krishna's, with jewels such as Indranila and with gold and coral. These friends are always jubilant, just like Krishna. May these glorious companions of Krishna always protect us. So there are some really standout descriptions in there. And one of them was that Krishna is always jubilant. Wonderful. In Vatsalya Rasa, the devotees relate to Krishna as his parents or teachers. There is a description of Mother Yasoda in one devotee's prayer. Let me be given protection by Mother Yasoda, whose curly hairs are bound with ribbon, whose hair is very brightly beautified by the vermilion placed in the part, and whose bodily frame derides all her ornaments. Her eyes are always engaged in seeing the face of Krishna, and thus they are always filled with tears. She has a complexion like a bluish lotus flower, which is enhanced in beauty by her dressing herself with many colourful garments. Let her merciful glance fall on all of us, so that we may be protected from the clutches of Maya and smoothly progress in our devotional service. So these devotees always end off with these beautiful prayers, don't they? So the description of Nanda Maharaja's bodily features are as follows. The hairs on his head are generally black, but some of them are grey. His garments are of a greenish colour, like the newly grown leaves of a banyan tree. His belly is fat. His complexion is exactly like the full moon. And he has a beautiful moustache. When Krishna was a baby, one day he was walking in the courtyard, capturing the finger of his father, and because he could not walk steadily, he appeared to be almost falling down. While Nanda Maharaj was giving protection to his transcendental son in this way, all of a sudden there were drops of tears from his eyes, and he became overwhelmed with joy. Let us offer our respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of King Nanda. So now let us look at the fourth rasa, Madhura rasa, which is the love between Krishna and his very dear consorts, headed by Srimati Radharani. The undisturbed nature of the love between Radha and Krishna is described thus. Just a little distance away from Krishna was Mother Yasoda, and Krishna was surrounded by all of his friends. In front of him was a large stone at the entrance to the village of Braja, and standing there was the demon known as Vristasura. But even in such circumstances, when Krishna saw Radharani standing just behind a bush of creepers, immediately his beautiful eyebrows moved just like lightning towards her. There are many wonderful descriptions of Krishna with Radharani and the Gopi girls in the Nectar of Devotion. Also in the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami explains many sort of feelings and symptoms of the devotees when they are in these different rasas. And so to end off the class tonight, I'm going to read out where Rupa Goswami is describing laughter, smiling and laughter in these different moods of ecstasy. And I think you'll find them quite good fun, because after all, it's about smiling and laughter, isn't it? So he's divided this into 6 divisions. These divisions, according to the different degrees of smiling, are called Shmita, Hasita, Vihasita, Abhahasita, Apahasita, and Atihasita. So let's look at these just for a little bit of enjoyment, hearing about Krishna. 1, Shmita. That is when one is smiling, but his teeth are not visible. However, one can distinctly mark a different change, a definite change in the eyes and in the cheek. So it's kind of like their eyes and cheeks are smiling, but they can't see any teeth yet. Here's an example. Once when Krishna was stealing yogurt, Jarati, the head maidservant of the house, could detect his activities. She knew he was stealing yogurt, and she was therefore coming very hurriedly to catch him. At that time, Krishna became very afraid of Jarati and went to his elder brother Baladev. He said, "My dear brother, I have stolen yogurt. Just see, Jarati is coming hurriedly to catch me." When Krishna was thus seeking the shelter of Baladev, his older brother, because he's being chased by Jarati, all the great sages in the heavenly planets who were watching this, they began to smile. They began to smile, but their teeth weren't showing, but they were smiling. And this smiling was called Smita. So let's move to the next one. So let's look at number 2, Hasita. And this is smiling, and the teeth are just slightly visible, just a little bit, you can see the teeth. So here's an example. One day, Abhimanyu, the so-called husband of Radharani, was returning home. But at that time, he did not know that Krishna was there inside his house. But Krishna knew that Abhimanyu was there. And Krishna immediately changed his dress to look exactly like Abhimanyu. And then Krishna approached Abhimanyu's mother, Jatila, addressing her thus, "My dear mother, I am your real son, Abhimanyu, and just see, Krishna is dressed just like me, and he's going to try and come into the house. Jatila immediately believed that Krishna was her son, and thus became very angry at her real son who was coming home. She went outside and she began to drive away her son, who was crying out, "Mother, mother, what are you doing?" Seeing this incident, all the girlfriends of Radharani who were present there in the house with her, they began to smile, and a portion of their teeth was visible. So this is an instance of Hasita smiling. So number 3, Vihasita. This is when the teeth are distinctly visible in the smile. So it's a big smile, big beautiful smile with all the teeth showing. So here's an example. One day when Krishna was engaged in stealing butter and yogurt in the house of Jatila, he assured his friends, "My dear friends, I know that this old lady is now sleeping very deeply and profoundly because she's breathing very deeply. So let us silently steal butter and yogurt without making any disturbances." But the old lady Jatila was not sleeping, and she could not contain her smiling. She heard Krishna say that. And when she started smiling, her teeth immediately became visible. So this is an instance of Vihasita smiling. So she was really enjoying the fact that the cowherd boys thinking they were getting away with stealing. The flavour of stealing. So number 4, Avahasita, is when in the state of smiling, the nose becomes puffed and the eyes squint. You've all seen that sometimes when people are really laughing hard. Once, early in the morning, when Krishna returned home after performing his rasa dance, Mother Yasoda looked upon her son Krishna and addressed him thus, "My dear son, why do your eyes look like they've been smeared with some powders? Have you dressed yourself in the blue garments of Baladev?" When Mother Yasoda was addressing Krishna in this way, a gopi girl who was nearby began to smile, and she smiled so much that her nose became puffy and the eyes became squinty. The gopi knew that Krishna had been enjoying the rasa dance and that Mother Yasoda could not detect her son's activities nor understand that he had become covered with the gopi's makeup. Her smiling was in the Abhasita feature. So she was really enjoying that they'd hidden all this from Mother Yasoda. So number 5 is Abhasita. Now this is when a person is smiling so much that tears start falling from their eyes and their shoulders are shaking. So this is like really, really smiling and laughing, isn't it? When child Krishna was dancing in response to the singing of the old maidservant Jarati, Narada Muni was astonished because he was watching this. So here's the old maid and she's encouraging Krishna. She said, "Come on, dance, dance. Come on, move your arms. Come on, step over here, step over there." She's really directing Krishna, little boy Krishna, in this dancing. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what Narada Muni's thinking. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who controls all the movements of great demigods like Brahma and others, was now dancing to the indications of the old maidservants. Seeing this fun, Narada also began to dance, and his shoulders trembled and his eyes moved. Due to his smiling so much, his teeth became very visible, and on account of the glaring effulgence from his teeth, the clouds in the skies turned silver. That's really a smile. You know, sometimes you'll see that in ads. They'll get somebody, maybe it's for toothpaste, they'll get somebody really smiling, and they'll put in, you know, in some effects. Ding, ding, you know, these little star-shaped ding, ding. Well, actually, when Narada Muni was smiling so much at seeing Krishna dancing like this, he was smiling so much that he really did. The effulgence coming from his smile really did turn the clouds silver. So these wonderful, wonderful pastimes with Krishna, aren't they? So let's look at the last one, number 6, Atihasita. Now, how much more smiling can we get now after that? You know, the tears flowing and the shoulders shaking. Aha! Atihasita is when a smiling person claps his hands and leaps in the air and is just absolutely overwhelmed with laughter. So this is a really, really good fun example in the Nectar of Devotion. Krishna once addressed his old maidservant, Jarati, thus: "My dear good woman, the skin of your face is now slackened, and so your face exactly resembles a monkey's. As such, the king of the monkeys, Bali Mukha, has selected you as his worthy wife." While Krishna was teasing Jarati in this way, she looked at him and she replied that she was certainly aware of the fact that the king of the monkeys was trying to marry her. But she had already taken shelter of Krishna, the killer of many powerful demons, and therefore she had already decided to marry Krishna instead of the king of the monkeys. She kind of turned the table on Krishna. On hearing the sarcastic reply by the talkative Jarati, all the cowherd girls present there began to laugh very loudly and clap their hands. This laughter, accompanied by the clapping of hands, is called Atita Sita. How wonderful all the pastimes of Krishna that Srila Rupa Goswami has so kindly given us in the Nectar of Devotion. Namaste.
Haribo, 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Sing louder. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Thank you very much. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Haribo, Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Jaya Radharani, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Haribo. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Haribo. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo.